right, we are live streaming, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Firth here, one of the founding Field Advisory Board members of Neumi, and it is my pleasure to be your MC for today. By the way, I want to put it out to all the Neumi members worldwide. We're looking for more MCs. If you would like to be an MC and you would like to host one of these events, you don't have to worry about the technology. We'll do that for you. But if you would like to be an MC and introduce speakers, which is a great baby step for all the Neumi members worldwide, reach out and we would love to include you as one of those little faces that we see at the start of an event. I'm getting sick of seeing my face and I'm sure you are too. So we're going to kick off the event today, guys. Firstly, if you have any recommendations for music, for those that weren't on, we were playing Forever Young, which I think suits the glutathione story and the hydrostat story, and actually particularly Dr. Johnathan Glass, who's with us today, is going to be talking. So having said that, this is the way today's event's going to roll out. I want you to promote this to everybody. Every time we do an event now, Members Night, we will open up for a Q&A. You guys have all been asking for it, but the Q&A only happens for those live in the Zoom room after the live streaming has finished. Why? Just in case of compliance, if someone says anything silly. So I want you to prepare yourselves now, if you could, with a pen and paper. At the end of this, we would love to open up. Do you have a great product testimonial? And have you been taught how to do it in less than 2 minutes? We don't want long-winded stories. Just a 2-minute, this is how I was, here's how I am now. And or do you have any questions about the product or the business? I will stay on at the end if it's business-related questions. Dr. Glass will stay on at the end if there's glutathione-related questions. It won't be recorded, but it will be your opportunity up close and personal to be able to ask. So if you're watching us right now on YouTube or you're watching us on Facebook, quickly get into the Neumi TV Zoom room instead, because that's where the action happens at the end when all the microphones, cameras are turned off. So today we are blessed. I want to show you that we have had Dr. Johnathan Glass, who is author of The Total Life Cleanse, present for us numerous times. And if you go to the Neumi YouTube channel, which is not that one, this one, and you scroll down, the first video is the one we all use as our first exposure for everyone, the 3-minute video. And directly under that is a playlist, which is the liver's secret weapon, the lung secret weapon, the kidney secret weapon, your heart secret weapon. It's a playlist you can use to really educate yourself on glutathione. And it is a series that you can play and provide to people as well. Now, with that in mind, today, Dr. Johnathan Glass, author of The Total Life Cleanse, he will be presenting an event which is about the earth elements, which is the spleen and the pancreas. So I know absolutely zero about this, so I'm not going to say any more other than to say, Dr. Johnathan Glass, thank you for sharing with us, and I'll hand the call to you.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this has been a really enjoyable process of going through all the different elements according to the ancient system of Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. What's really nice about these systems is that each element, there's earth, water, fire, air, ether, they each relate to different organs, and each organ relates to the function of the organ itself. It relates to different tissues of the body. It relates to different emotions, things like that. So when we think of nourishing an organ or healing an organ, it's not just that organ and its physiological functions, which it is, but it has many other ripple effects that affects other tissues. It actually affects us mentally. It affects us emotionally. So this is how powerful glutathione is, because it literally impacts every element and every organ of the body. So really quickly, in both Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, the earth element relates to the organs, the spleen, pancreas, and also the stomach. It relates to the muscles. It relates to the capacity of the body to assimilate nutrients, and as we'll see later, which makes sense, to assimilate sugar from the blood to create energy for the cells, which is, of course, super important, because without that, there's no muscle energy, there's no brain energy, there's no ability to function. And the earth element relates to our capacity to think. When it's imbalanced, we tend to worry. Also, it has to do with our capacity to be present and, you could say, compassionate or sympathetic for others too. So each organ holds these different emotions. And if you go to these other videos that we've done, you'll see that you'll learn more about all these correspondences. So we are not just a physical body made of chemicals. We're a very sophisticated being, ultimately with consciousness, a soul, but what manifests through all of these different organ systems that have actually a lot of meaning to them. So, many of you here know something about glutathione, but it's an extremely, probably the most important molecule in the body, made up of 3 amino acids. And, as a summary, it neutralizes harmful chemicals, free radicals, protects our cells from damage, supports the immune and metabolic functions of the body. Now, that's a big topic because so much is happening in the immune system and so much is happening around metabolism. And another thing that's very interesting, it helps to recover after stress or an illness. Glutathione is not only the master antioxidant, but the master balancer. It balances the entire system. Without it, we would be either in a chronic state of inflammation or a chronic state of inertness. So it's a very, very essential, the most essential molecule of the body, other than oxygen. And in fact, they go together. Without glutathione, oxygen would not be able to, the red blood cells would not be able to ultimately take up oxygen into the red blood cell. So one thing that I think many people have a basic understanding, but it's good to be reminded that as cells create energy, they create free radicals. This is simplistic, but it's a little bit like a car. When the gasoline goes through the engine, it creates energy. But in that process, the car also creates exhaust. So that exhaust is analogous to free radicals. So we want to create energy, but we also need to deal with something, that the pollution that the body self-creates when we create energy. So glutathione is the most fundamental, important molecule to help deal with the cleanup. So it helps when free radicals build up too much, the cell's walls become damaged. The endothelial linings, like I mentioned during the talk on the cardiovascular system, the inner linings of the blood vessels, they become damaged. And then proteins, and the proteins, what do? They help make enzymes and tissues of the body. They can become damaged. And then also, in fact, the mitochondria and the DNA of the cell, which is how the body, creates replication, but also how the body creates energy, that can become damaged. So this oxidative, it's called ROS. It's an essential part of being human and actually being healthy, but it also can be a big source of disease and distress and inflammation for the body. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is the spleen. Spleen is sort of a mysterious organ. Most people kind of have a sense of, yeah, my liver deals with detoxing and my lungs breathe and my heart, pumps blood. My intestines deal with digestion. But the spleen is an interesting organ. It's kind of like a big lymphatic organ. It's a major filter for the blood. One of the things that happens is when red blood cells, they're supposed to last about 120 days. This is simplistic, but they're like a disc, and there's a protein coating, or a fatty coating actually, on the cell wall. And as it swivels through the body, after about 120 days, that lining of the red blood cell wears out and it pops open and it becomes a round ball. And then when that goes in the spleen gobbles it up, it breaks it up. The blood vessels in the spleen are very small, and that red blood cell bursts, and then it gets recycled and sent to the liver for processing. Some of that becomes bilirubin and other aspects of the body. So it removes these damaged red blood cells. It has a major coordinating effect on the immune system. And like I said, it filters the blood. So one of the things with immune system, very interesting, is that the immune cells actually use free radicals or reactive oxygen species, that's ROS, to destroy bacteria and viruses. So this is kind of interesting. It's amazing how the body works. The free radicals that in our mind we think, oh, they're all bad, but they're actually not all bad. They just need to be managed because they are used by the immune system and by the spleen to destroy bacteria and viruses. However, these same molecules that can destroy bacteria and viruses can also damage the white blood cells. They can actually damage the actual white blood cells that support the immune system. So when there's too much oxidation, then yes, the body's killing the viruses, killing the bacteria, but it might also be attacking or stressing the white blood cells of the immune system. So you can see how that balancing act is so uh, significant and so necessary. And guess what? Glutathione is the balancing actor. It makes sure that the body can create those free radicals so that it can support healthy immunity, but that it also protects the white blood cells from being damaged at the same time. Okay. So glutathione protects immune cells from oxidative self-damage. Okay. And also, it allows the immune responses to be effective without being excessive, because that's sometimes what happens with the immune system. It just goes on high alert. It goes and goes and goes, and it never turns down. And this becomes a chronic state of inflammation where someone can have an illness that drags on and on and on and on. And that can be due to the inflammation that comes from possibly from a lack of glutathione. So low glutathione can actually lead to what we call immune cell fatigue, uh, imbalanced inflammation, and slower recovery from infection. Okay. So the other thing that glutathione does, like I mentioned before, is that a red blood cell is meant to last for about 120 days. And that's super important because what do those red blood cells do? They carry nutrients and, most importantly, oxygen to all the cells of the body. So if those red blood cells are exposed to too much oxidation, then guess what? Those red blood cells break down prematurely, maybe 100 days, maybe 80 days. I know some people, it's only 40 days that their red blood cells stick around. That creates a lot of stress on the body. Now it means your bone marrow, your liver, your red blood cell producing centers of the body have to work that much harder to make up for all that oxidation. So when there's too much oxidation, red blood cells break down too quickly. Now the body has to take its reserves of energy to create more blood, because without healthy blood, it's not possible to be healthy at all. Okay, so what the glutathione does, it helps to maintain the integrity of the cell wall of the red blood cell. And like I said before, the integrity of the white blood cell, of the immune system. So it breaks down, it prevents premature breakdown of the red blood cells. So, like I said, when glutathione is low, red blood cells break down more quickly. Then the spleen must remove them sooner. That's going to put more burden on the spleen, and oxygen delivery and energy levels often will decrease with that. There are some people that will actually get a swollen spleen because they're breaking down so many red blood cells. And are even cases of people that their spleen will burst, not from just getting too big, but say they have a swollen spleen and they get hit really hard with a soccer ball or something like that. So yeah, so these things can happen. So the spleen helps to regulate the inflammatory signaling molecules called cytokines. These cytokines are either inflammatory or calming, and that's what they're working on. So I think that kind of covers what we want to talk about, the pancreas, sorry, the spleen. Let's talk about the pancreas a little bit. Now, the spleen and pancreas is interesting. Spleen is very much related to the muscles in Chinese medicine. So when the spleen is healthy and happy, then the muscle fibers will be also strong. But one thing is very important is that in order for those muscles to be strong, what do we need? We need healthy amounts of insulin and to carry the glucose into the muscle fibers to create energy. So there's a very intimate relationship between the spleen and the pancreas. When the pancreas is functioning well, and the pancreas does two basic things, it creates enzymes for digestion, but it also creates insulin, primarily, other hormones as well, so that the sugar in the blood is then carried into the cell to create energy. It's a very, very simple process, at least on paper. So many people have heard of insulin resistance. And all that basically means is that a cell has become oxidized or damaged, very possibly due to lack of glutathione, and also poor diet, stress, toxins, things like that. So that cell wall becomes rigid. And now when insulin is carrying that sugar molecule in toward the cell, it's basically knocking on the door of the cell wall saying, hey, we got some sugar for you. And the cell is saying, I'm not opening up. Give me more insulin. So the body creates more insulin, knocks on the door. I'm not opening up. Knocks on more. Finally, it forces that cell open and the sugar goes in and creates energy. So when the cell walls are healthy and happy and fluid and flexible, then there's going to be less insulin resistance. And where do we get too much oxidation? When we don't have enough glutathione. Okay. And we talked about in other classes, there's so many reasons why glutathione is depleted when the liver is stressed, when there's too many toxins. The liver is the main source of creation of glutathione. When the liver's stressed, then the body will not be able to create as much glutathione. It will also store more iron, which is very oxidizing. It'll store more copper, which is also stagnating. And then we have, bad diet, bad fats, so many things. So, even though we're talking about glutathione, basically when we eat and live pretty clean and do our best, then you're going to get the best bang out of your glutathione stores that your body makes, and you're going to get the best use out of taking our amazing products because you're putting less burden on the body. So when we do our part and we take a wonderful product like Neumi, it's an amazing, amazing combination. Okay. So one of the things that the pancreas does, or that they have these things called beta cells. The beta cells are what makes the insulin, and they're very, very sensitive to oxidation. So glutathione is essential for protecting the beta cells, which are the insulin producing cells of the pancreas. Most people don't know that there are different qualities of insulin. So if your beta cells are struggling, the potency and quality, it's not just about the amount of insulin that we have, it's the quality. It's like gasoline. If the gasoline is dirty, or if it's, the higher grade is more effective than the lower grade. Insulin also has quality. So when your pancreatic beta cells are healthy and they're not oxidized and they're not stressed, then you're going to make better insulin. Your cell walls will be more receptive to that insulin, so you don't ever have to get diabetes or prediabetes when the beta cells are happy and the cell walls are happy. Okay. So the beta cells respond to rising blood sugar. They increase insulin production. This process itself of just creating insulin causes oxidation. So like I said, whatever the body does that's positive, there's always going to be the oxidative stress that comes from that. So the body's, every time our body kicks in insulin, you can be sure we're also creating some free radicals. So we need that glutathione to protect the body, the cells, and also the pancreas itself. Super, super important. So the inflammation of the pancreas can be triggered by blood sugar instability, infections, toxins, chronic stress, all of which glutathione can be helpful for. It calms inflammation, it calms the signaling of inflammation, and it protects pancreatic tissue from ongoing injury. Now, also, the other thing, like I mentioned before, the pancreas is very sensitive to circulating toxins that are in the blood. So this is another argument to clean up our life. I'm not talking about perfection, but minimize the junk food. Take it out of your diet as much as possible. Minimize the alcohol. Find, what's the sweet spot for you. If you like to have a drink sometimes, figure out, well, what's really my limit? Don't do more than that. Try to find the sweet zone. Eat really healthy. Do a moderate amount, healthy amount of exercise. Plenty of fresh air, good water, and of course, take this amazing product, NutraSwish. Okay. So in summary, glutathione is protective for both the spleen, for the immune system, for the red blood cells, for the pancreas, for the beta cells. And again, the pancreas, what else does it do? It helps make enzymes. Those enzymes, when we have food in our small intestine, the pancreas secretes enzymes to go to the small intestine to break down our food. If the pancreas is stressed, it's not going to secrete those enzymes as efficiently and effectively. So therefore, even you can argue that without sufficient glutathione from this perspective, the pancreas isn't going to work as well, and you're not going to have as powerful, effective, and complete digestion. Okay, so important because maintaining healthy blood sugar is so important to our health. Maintaining a healthy immune system, of course, what it's all about. And all of these things, ultimately, what is it all about? Ultimately, is creating good energy and body, mind, and spirit. So that's what it's all about. All right, so I'll leave it here. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer at this point.
Beautiful. So what we're going to do, guys, is as I said at the start, if you're on this call live in the Zoom room, we're going to allow you to ask some questions. We're going to put some parameters around that in a second, but we are going to say to everybody who's watching us online, leaders turn up live. If you're watching the recording, unfortunately, you're going to miss the Q&A just because legalities and compliance, we cannot have those recorded. So we look forward to seeing you on the next event. If you're watching us on the live stream, let me turn that off now. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you've watched us from there. And for the Zoom room, hang in and we'll